So we've got very, very troubling times on our hands right now. I made a video this morning. Last night, there was a protest that broke out, wound up at the CNN World Headquarters. um, I thought the song, For What It's Worth, by Buffalo Springfield was very fitting for what we're starting to see unfold here. But nonetheless, we're going to look into a few other things here. I'm going to play some clips, some little snippets of what happened at the CNN headquarters again. I'm not going to do the entire clip, but something else that I want to focus on here is a little over a day ago, a CNN reporter was arrested. Okay? So let's start this video, and I'm going to kind of start and stop and interject things as we go. But let's just go ahead and get straight on into this clip.
Just let us know, and we got you. And this is a scene here playing out in Minneapolis. This is part of the advanced police presence that we saw come over the course of really minutes when the local police showed up at the fire department, or with the fire department, I should say, on that building we showed you that was burning. This is among the State Patrol unit that was advancing up the street, saying and scattering the protesters at that point for people to clear the area. And so we walked away. I'm sorry?
You're under arrest.
Okay. Do you mind telling me why I'm under arrest, sir? Why am I under arrest, sir?
Officers with CNN, and he's on the air right now.
Okay.
You are arresting him live on CNN. We told you before that we are with CNN.
If you're just tuning in, you are watching our correspondent, Omar Jimenez, being arrested by state police in Minnesota. We're not sure why our correspondent is being arrested.
Hang on one second, Allison. Let's listen into what these officers are saying. That is an American television reporter, Omar Jimenez, being led away by police officers. He clearly identified himself as a reporter. He was respectfully explaining to the state police that our CNN team was there and moving away as they would request. And then for some reason, he was just taken in to police custody live on television. I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you, Allison. I just wanted to listen to see if we could hear more from the officers, the state police, as this is going on.
Yeah. We're trying to see what's going to happen, John, obviously, to the rest.
I'm about there, guys. We were just out here reporting the closure of the streets. They just, Omar was just arrested. I believe they're about to, we're all about to be arrested. That's our producer.
Our CNN producer is being...
I'm probably going to be taken in a minute.
Our CNN camera crew and our
just,
producer are being arrested right now on live television in handcuffs.
I've never seen anything like this.
Why, guys, what are,
Allison.
why are you arresting us? I mean, we're just passing along the message, your message. I'm done, we're just out here doing our job as well as you all.
We can do that.
Can you tell me what are...
Are you under arrest?
Okay.
Behind your back.
I'm being arrested now. I gotta can I put the camera down?
If you're just tuning in, this is our camera crew, our CNN camera crew, being arrested by the Minneapolis State Police, we believe. The camera is now on the ground because our cameraman has been handcuffed. Our correspondent, Omar Jimenez, was also led away in handcuffs, as was his producer. They were standing where they were told to stand previously by police. They were out of the way. We don't know why they're being arrested. They're not being given any explanation, as far as we can hear, for why they're being arrested. We don't know why they're being handcuffed and led away. They are allowed to be reporting on the unrest that's happening right now, but for some reason, the state police have decided that they need to be under arrest.
And just to be clear, Allison, having been in the middle of protests like this, I've never seen anything like this.
So, let's be just completely honest here. One, unless there's some detail that I'm not aware of as to why this happened, why this team was arrested, Minneapolis and the police there should be, absolutely ashamed of themselves. Seriously. Because, again, unless there's something that I haven't been made aware of and didn't see in that clip where they were trying to tell them they had to move and CNN was pretty much, trying to bug them, but it certainly didn't seem that way from this clip. You hear the guy saying, hey, tell us where you want us to go and we'll go. And they just arrest them. Now, there's so many problems with what we're seeing just in that clip. First of all, even though I am no fan of CNN's whatsoever, and I do not think CNN is really trying to truly inform the American people about the deep corruption within our government. They cheer on war hawks and war criminals and so on and so forth, okay? So I'm no fan of CNN, but nonetheless, some of you may say we're using this term a little loosely, they are considered journalists. And one of the big things that is supposed to differentiate us from the old boogeyman Russia, Russia, look what he does to reporters and blah, 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 blah. Look what Vladimir Putin does to reporters, locking up reporters. Well, first of all, the government's been setting a precedent for something like this for quite some time. Julian Assange, ring any bells? They've been preparing for things like this for quite some time. They've just been inching their way into it. Something the government does a lot. We use this incremental term a lot for progress. Well, the government sometimes will be incremental in taking more and more of your freedoms away. They just kind of slowly do it over time so that it's not necessarily just one great big, shock to your system. They've kind of gradually built up to where things like this become more and more and more common. And even in this case, you still have to say, okay, whoa, what the hell? But that's what they've been doing for a long time. So when they went after Julian Assange, who's telling the truth that even CNN won't really report on, sure, they might, when Julian Assange leaks it, cover it for a little while, but they certainly don't do the digging to put the story out there themselves. They only cover it if the information already leaks out there, and then they got to try to look like journalists. But nonetheless, that's problem number one. Going around and just arresting people trying to cover, a major news story right now. The hell. More so than that. And as many of you know, I'm not an identity politics guy, but, let's just call it like it is. Okay? The whole outrage going on right now is once again, a black man was killed by a cop. And you hear about it all the time. And I was just on a video last night with, a guy expressing these same sentiments. That the black community is tired of being walked all over and treated like they're second-class citizens within the country. They're tired of it. And so, what in the blue hell were you guys thinking, not only arresting a journalist, but in spite of what just happened in your backyard by your police forces, and you're not only going to arrest a journalist, but you do it to a man of color? How the hell does that make any sense? Seriously. None. Absolutely none. Talk about poor judgment from these, idiots. What the hell? I mean, these guys have taken things way too far at this point. You're not only going to arrest the journalists, but then you're also going to go out and the first one you drag away from the scene is the black guy. What? Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he has been released. But this is not going to do one damn thing but fuel more and more and more outrage and cause even more riots, even more protests, and even more problems, unless I miss my guess. Not only, have 2 black men been killed in a very recent amount of time, you've got the Floyd situation, and I forget the guy's name, but it wasn't too long ago that the guy that was, killed by the supposed off-duty cop, who was, the guy was supposed to be just jogging around, and the off-duty cop says, no, he was trying to burglarize a home or under construction or something. So you've got both of these situations playing out, and both of those tragedies have just happened. You've got COVID-19 still in place. You've had people that have been stuck at home going stir crazy. Now you have these 2 tragedies. And after these 2 tragedies involving the deaths of black men, you go arrest journalists, and the first one you drag away from the scene is the black man. How the hell do you think that's gonna, come across? And what kind of a reaction do you think you're gonna get from doing things like that? You're gonna cause far more problems. Now again, unless there's something that I have not been made aware of where they were causing a security, threat or whatever, if they had said no one can be in this area whatsoever, okay, if that was the case and someone can show me that might change things a little bit about this reporter situation. But I haven't gathered that sort of information. According to them, they were told they could stand in one spot. The cops came along later, said you need to move somewhere else. And then when the guy's saying, okay, tell me where to go, he arrests him.
That's when we heard over the radio that this was happening. They've broken out the windows here and are continuing to throw objects. There's just another projectile fired. Appear to be a full water bottle. But there are officers that we can report. At least 2 officers have been injured. One of them, it appeared to be seriously injured. He was being dragged out. You could see what's left behind of this glass, the glass partition that separates the street. These demonstrators are now launching something that appears to be some sort of smoke grenade that they're throwing inside CNN Center right now. They're kicking it back out, guys. This is live happening in front of your eyes. They've just thrown, I think, Powerade or some sort of Gatorade or liquid, guys, on the officers. These officers are being confronted. And these demonstrators, they know what's on the other side of this. They've been warned. These officers have already fired or deployed tear gas into the crowd. We saw another with a long gun fire what appeared to be a rubber bullet at another demonstrator who had thrown a large object. You see these demonstrators are walking inside CNN Center at this point. It seems as though this man might be detained. He's being detained. Let's see if we can talk to him. Another rock just thrown there at police. We're right behind the police line. These are very large objects. Police being hit. This demonstrator, let's see if we could ask him why he was here, guys. Hey, why did you show up here today? Why are you here? Why did you come here? What made you show up?
They need to be changed. Here in our country, it's not black, white. Officers need to be trained better.
You took me off the air? No. And then unfolding right in front of our cameras. They're here under the premise because a black man was killed by police. They want to hold police accountable. Their message, however, has taken a violent tone here, and we don't hear the mention of George Floyd's name at all. We just see the violence happening here in front of us.
Well, this is a bizarre scene for people who aren't used to this. You have some people are laughing, some people are videotaping.
They just threw something on fire, Chris, a firecracker.
Yep.
Something's on fire. Shit.
Nick, you all right?
You okay? You okay? You okay, guys? You all right? Is everyone okay? You all right, William? Okay, we're okay. Our crew's okay. They just threw a firecracker in on us. What was that?
That was more than a firecracker.
Well,
Like one of those.
Was that like a
pretty powerful firecracker.
It might have been a
That just went off.
flashbang,
That got
Nick.
our heart pumping a little bit.
It might have been a flashback. They may have gotten their hands on an undetonated flashbang that the police use, which does exactly what you just saw.
So that was some little clips from the whole CNN protest, riot, whatever you want to call it, from Atlanta last night. Folks, we need to understand something. Our country is headed for one thing or another. We're heading for a total collapse, or we're heading for a complete revolution at the rate we're going. The way I would like to see people go about changing these things are to look beyond what they see straight in front of them. And what the hell do I mean by that? I feel for people in the country who genuinely feel that the system's working against them, because in a lot of cases I would agree. There is a system that's working against a lot of these people. The education system sucks compared to what it was once upon a time in this country. And I've given my thoughts on things like that. The job market is bad. Okay, I know you hear about jobs being added, blah, 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 but what are we hearing about a lot of these jobs? You need people qualified enough to do them. And because of the poor education system, you're not getting that. So, you can't just look at how many jobs are added. You got to look at, okay, yeah, the jobs are added, and how many people can actually get these jobs. How many of the people who lost their jobs when the cotton mills in the South were lost thanks to lousy free trade deals, how many of those people that have been trying to fight for work for however many years are able to go work in one of these new plants with all this modern technology and automation equipment they've never functioned with before? Who's going to be able to do it? So you can't just look at that. And automation, at the rate it's progressing, yeah, there might be more businesses opening, but automation over a period of time is going to start, and it's already doing it, it's just going to get worse, start replacing more and more and more and more and more people's jobs. Okay? It's something that's been done for a long time. For a very long time. And it's only going to get worse. And so, to me, what I would prefer to see, I have sympathy in a way, but I have to be honest. At the end of the day, I have to say this too. If people don't take the time and the responsibility to look at the whole picture of what's going on here, to really look at their government, and they just want to complain but don't do their own homework. They just want to tune in to CNN and expect to be given the truth and don't question what they're being told and do their own homework, and they just want to, well, this is what they say, so I guess this is the case. I have sympathy for the situation in a way, but at the same time, I can't be that sympathetic toward apathy. You've got to give enough of a shit about your country. And so what I would like to see happen is people finally say, okay, look, things aren't getting any better. You know, I would like to see a lot of people in the black community, I would like to see white people, I would like to see everyone finally realize voting for these two parties ain't getting a shit. And this isn't the first time we've seen riots like this. I mean, there were riots when MLK was killed. We had riot, you know, and protest after Trayvon Martin, Charlottesville, okay? There's always protests and riots, but things like this just keep happening. And what I would like to finally see happen is that people say, no, screw this. We can't keep voting for the two parties who are causing all the trouble. Because let's be completely honest, people. Who is pouring gasoline all over situations like this? Who? Break this down for a moment. Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic nominee, claims he is a champion for the black community. And yet, as I stated in a video last night, he's helped champion on things like the crime bill. Okay? Joe Biden's track record really says the opposite for where he stands to help the African American community in this country. Again, talking the talk and not walking the walk. But he tells you he's your guy. He's the man that's going to look out for you at the end of the day. And he's there to help the African American community. He's got Jim Clyburn's support. He's got President Obama's support. He's got the NAACP's support. But again, for the crime bill, which targeted mostly people of color. And you've got a guy like that. Here's what I think goes unnoticed by most people. A lot of people go after things that Donald Trump says, and rightfully so in a lot of cases. He says a lot of offensive, inflammatory bullshit. But they don't seem to pick up and really be so outraged when a guy like Joe Biden does things like that. Now, the most recent example is the whole, you're not really black if you don't know whether you want to vote for me or whatever. No. Forget that. I don't like Mitt Romney, but what did he say about Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan when he was Obama's VP that time? They're going to put y'all back in chains. What the fuck is that? What? Well, first of all, who are you informing? Who are you helping? And what problem are you solving talking like that, you fucking jackass? They're going to put y'all back in chains. So, understand this. Yeah, Trump might be a pompous, big-mouthed asshole at times. You think these guys are not? There's a reason. There's a reason tensions are so high in this country today. And yes, there's racist white people out there. There's still a Ku Klux Klan out there. But it's not because there is this massive Ku Klux Klan that's trying to oppress the black community. It's not the way it used to be. The reason we're so fucking divided today are because of the two parties spewing this sort of bullshit rhetoric, and people who listen to CNN and hear this soap opera-esque news, take their talking point from it, and they just pit us against each other. So, am I upset that CNN's headquarters were attacked? No. No. Absolutely not. Because it's, fucks like CNN and the bullshit they spew and the way they cover things and the way they talk about these situations and just focus constantly on all the damn identity politics the way that they do. And make it just seem like it's Whitey versus the black guy. And just pit it like that all the damn time. And they're the reason you get so much tension. Because there's a lot of white people out there that say, I don't have a thing against black people. What the hell are you coming after me for? But there's just as many black people that say, look at the statistics and how white people get off. We're tired of being oppressed. And the way they cover it, it just fuels the rage. And it causes these fires to ignite and burn. Instead of CNN actually coming out and doing their fucking job as a news reporter and saying, hey, the reason this community is in the position that it is in are because of poor policies from Democrats and Republicans. Instead of trying to really address the problem and inform the people so they can make themselves smarter, they do this to try and cause more problems, cause more tension, cause more riot. Now, a few final points on this that people need to understand, okay? First of all, if it reaches a point in this country where it's going to have to result in riot and revolution to take the country back, again, I would prefer people try doing it by voting the Democrats and the Republicans the hell out of office, because they are the problem. Period. So try getting them out. If you're tired of this, stop falling for that bullshit logic that you gotta vote for me even though I'm a piece of shit, because if you don't vote for me, that bigger piece of shit's gonna win. Quit falling for the idea that you have to accept lose-lose situations in elections. Start voting for a damn third-party option. Quit voting for the two-party jackasses. Or excuse me, the jackass and the elephant ass. Stop voting for them. Stop giving these fuckers exactly what they want. And stand up and make a stand and vote for somebody else. But if it comes to revolution, there's a few things that some folks are going to have to understand when it comes to riot and revolution. It's not something you want to see. But the concept that you're going to be able to do it without stuff taking place that you might not want to see. I don't want to see a small business owner that owns a little store that he's built from the ground up get burned down in a fire. It could cost that man everything he's ever worked his whole life for. Now, Target necessarily, we had this debate last night too, but look, folks, say what you want to about even some of these corporations, there's still people who rely on it. People are going to be hurt. And it's not something you want to see happen, but you got to understand this. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Once you open that floodgates, I guess the best way to put this, for every yin, there's a yang. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You might start a revolution with the intent of creating a better system at the end of the day, but what's going to happen along the way? there's going to be a lot of collateral damage that's going to take place between start to finish. It's going to happen. And if you think any revolution in the past took place without that, really? Okay. How many black people were arrested or killed during civil rights protests? I mean, you know? So look at that. How many people were killed during the American Revolution when we stood up to the British? I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And if you really want revolution, you're going to suffer losses. Could be life, could be financial. But that's something you're not going to be able to avoid. So if you want to take it to that option, just understand that's what comes with it. And you're not going to have the perfect revolution where you get what you want without possibly having to get a little skin in the game. You might lose something along the way. Could lose a lot along the way. So keep that in mind. But one final other thing that I want to toss out there is something that I have caught hell about from people in the past that lean more to the left. Stance on guns. If you do indeed decide you want to push forward with revolution, and that's your option to take your country back, what do you folks expect you're going to take on SWAT teams and potentially military with? What are you going to fight with? Lead pipes? And you're going to win? Okay. I'll believe that when I see it. All the people who were so willing to give up guns of some sort a while back might have a different view if they're now wanting revolution. Because if you're really wanting a fighting chance, you're going to need a little firepower. And I got news for you. 9mm handgun ain't going to do a whole lot to Kevlar vests and automatic weapons, tear gas canisters, and riot shields. That, pardon the cliche here, but even though you do have a gun, you're so far outmatched, and some would even say we're so far outmatched either way, but you'd be so far outmatched it would be like the old proverbial bringing the knife to the gunfight. So again, if you really want revolution, we need to understand, and everyone who wants it needs to understand, this is the kind of collateral damage that's probably going to come with it. But certainly, Minneapolis, you know, and these police officers should be ashamed of themselves, okay, and the way they've handled things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-police. I've got, you know, people that are a member of the lodge that I go to who are police officers. And there are a lot of fine men and women out there in uniform that I have respect for. But that ain't a pass for ones who go too far and abuse their authority and do bullshit like what we saw. Okay? So that's number one. And number two, the way they handled, again, what we saw with the whole journalist, that was tasteless bullshit, in my opinion, as well. I don't understand what the whole point of it was. And when you start to see things like that, it starts to make us look more and more and more like the countries we say we're supposed to be different from. We're supposed to be the land of the free, right? Yet we're arresting journalists now. So, you know, absolutely disgraceful. And again, we're either headed at this rate, if we keep voting for Democrats and Republicans, we're headed for one of two things: complete revolution and things are going to get real ugly, or we're headed for a complete downfall and a collapse as a society as a whole. And, you know, unless a miracle comes along and changes that course, that's what I see is headed for down the road.